Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 167 based on novel. So let's start. Sun Yunshan quickly answered, the cultivation union is located between the border of the fire demon country and the gold demon country. That place is filled with miasma year-round, so it is well hidden. After he finished speaking, he hesitated and then asked, Brother Wang, are you planning to? Wang Lin smiled. I don't have much confidence in breaking your restriction. However, I presume it shouldn't be hard for that ancestor. Sun Yunshan took a deep breath, took a few steps back, and gave Wang Lin a deep bow. He raised his head and his eyes were filled with excitement as he said, Brother Wang, words can't thank you for what you have done for me. If I can one day return to planet Qianyun, I'll definitely repay the favor. Brother Sun, you don't have to be like this. Wang Lin shook his head and said, in fact, even if you hadn't shown up, I would still have to take a trip this cultivation union. This ancestor has already provoked me twice, and if I don't do something about it, there will be a third and fourth time. It will never end. Brother Wang, no matter what, I'll remember this. Sun Yunshan's voice was filled with sincerity. Wang Lin smiled as he shook his head and put the broken jade inside his bag. He then waved his sleeves and disappeared from the tower with Sun Yunshan. When he was about to leave the soul refining tribe, Wang Lin casually waved his right hand. Those remaining cultivation union cultivators were caught by Wang Lin and disappeared. The war in the fire demon country continued. The constant slaughter caused a large amount of blood to flow on the ground, so the entire fire demon country was filled with the smell of blood. It was hard to avoid the attention of the other 7 countries when 2 countries went to war. Especially at this moment when the fire demon country was filled with constant slaughter and the sky demon country had almost no soldiers left in its own country. For the remaining 7 countries, this was an opportunity that rarely comes in tens of thousands of years. At this moment at the border of the fire demon country and the gold demon country, a meteor streaking across the sky could be seen 5,000 kilometers away from the miasma. The light surrounding the meteor disappeared, revealing Wang Lin when he arrived outside the miasma. He waved his sleeves and more than 10 cultivators appeared next to him. As for Sun Yunshan, he was standing next to Wang Lin. He was very uneasy and yet also very excited. These 2 complex emotions intertwined, making him a bit absent-minded. Brother Sun, hold on to the jade I gave you. Although the restriction inside can't break the celestial seed inside you, in a moment of crisis, it can delay its effect. With that, Wang Lin stepped into the thick miasma. He had some speculations regarding the celestial seed. However, he will only be able to confirm them after he sees this so-called celestial realm ancestor. A short old man was sitting in a lotus position inside the tower deep within the miasma. 3 women were sitting opposite of this old man. All 3 of them were very beautiful, and one of them was Sun Yunshan's little sister, Sun Ruonan. Strands of pink gas came out from the mouths and noses of the 3 women. This pink gas formed wonderful fantasies that danced around the old man. These illusory figures dancing around the old man gradually turned solid. Then they suddenly turned into beautiful celestials wearing colorful clothes. The old man inhaled and directly swallowed them all. This short old man suddenly opened his eyes at the moment Wang Lin stepped into the miasma, and his eyes released a golden glow. At the moment his eyes opened, the illusory figures around him disappeared. The 3 women revealed very worn-out expressions and their faces even showed signs of aging. Wang Lin stepped into the miasma. This miasma was very thick, and as he moved within it, it surrounded him as if it were alive. As Wang Lin walked forward, more and more miasma surrounded him, and ghostly wails came at him from all directions. Wang Lin's expression was cold as he said, to try to use soul spell before me, you really don't know your limits. As he spoke, his hand formed a seal and he shouted, Soul Vortex. His voice entered the seal his hand made and the surrounding miasma suddenly began to churn as if it was boiling. The miasma began to gather before Wang Lin at a very fast speed. This scene was as if there was a vortex before Wang Lin that was viciously sucking in all the miasma. In almost an instant, all of the miasma surrounding this area was sucked away. For the first time in countless years, this place was exposed to the sun. A fist-sized ball of miasma formed in Wang Lin's hand and released a large amount of silk-like strands. A white castle could be seen in the distance. There were almost 100 cultivators floating in the air outside the castle. All of them were in shock as they stared dumbfoundedly at the ball of miasma in Wang Lin's hand. Wang Lin's expression was cold as his gaze swept the crowd, and he immediately memorized all of their faces. Some of them were in the group that entered with Wang Lin, and some of them were unfamiliar. One of the people among the group made Wang Lin's eyes light up slightly. This person was a middle-aged man wearing blue. The moment the man in blue saw Wang Lin, he was startled. He subconsciously avoided Wang Lin's gaze and revealed a bitter expression. He was the Heavenly Fate Sect's Blue Division disciple that came to the Demon Spirit Land with Wang Lin. Make way. Wang Lin's voice was very calm. Just one phrase caused everyone to subconsciously scatter. None of their cultivation levels had reached the ascendant stage. The highest level cultivator here was only at the peak of the late stage of soul transformation. When facing an ascendant cultivator who could refine all the miasma here, they all wisely chose to retreat. However, there were still some unwise individuals who believed they had the backing of the self-proclaimed celestial realm Ancestor. One of the young men wearing a Daoist robe shouted, so bold. Who are you? Say your name. My cultivation union. This person hadn't even finished speaking when Wang Lin's cold gaze pierced into his eyes like a sharp sword. His words were forced back into his mouth by the blood that he coughed out. Wang Lin cultivated the celestial slaughter art and had a heart of slaughter, so this gaze was comparable to a real attack. The bystanders all sucked in breaths of cold air. Every one of them all scattered even more. Even those that didn't scatter the first time all quickly retreated even if it meant risking activating the restrictions inside their bodies. A straight and open path leading to the castle opened up. Kill this person. A majestic voice came from within the castle. After the order came, all of the cultivators' faces became pale and they all hesitated. Luckily, just at this moment, a black figure suddenly came out from the castle and charged directly at Wang Lin. One of the surrounding cultivators suddenly exclaimed, Celestial Guardian. No one knew if he had done it on purpose or if he was really that surprised. Wang Lin's expression was still calm and he didn't even look at the person who charged out from the castle. He took a step forward and began walking toward the castle. Although his speed wasn't fast, it caused everyone's eyes to narrow. At this moment, in these cultivators' eyes, looking at Wang Lin felt like they were looking at the elders of their own sects. That aura and sense of ease was not something an ordinary cultivator could have. Only those with a certain degree of self-confidence in their own cultivation could emit this kind of aura. The Blue Division disciple looked at Wang Lin and revealed a very complex expression. He had heard some news about Wang Lin and personally saw Wang Lin's battle against Chen Dao for the title of True Disciple. Back then, Wang Lin's performance caught a lot of people's attention. However, it was only their attention. After all, this Wang Lin's cultivation level wasn't high enough. However, at this moment, he didn't dare to underestimate Wang Lin anymore. Not only did Wang Lin manage to somehow reach the ascendant stage in such a short period of time, but more importantly, when he saw Wang Lin, he could vaguely feel the feeling he got when he looked at the All-Seer. Although this feeling wasn't strong, it did indeed exist. He was, after all, a disciple of the Heavenly Fate sect and the All-Seer, so his knowledge was good. He naturally knew that this was an expression of Tao. To give off this feeling meant that Wang Lin had his own Tao. In the cultivation world, those who have their own Tao store it in their heart, gain enlightenment, and are also be able to fuse with it. Those people have the qualifications to build a foundation in this world. In truth, all cultivators have their own Tao, but to condense it into a corporeal form is extremely difficult. He actually reached this level already. The man in blue felt very melancholy. At this moment, he forgot about the seed in his body. All his mind could think of was the difference between the Wang Lin who was a savage from a half-wasted cultivation planet like Suzaka that was mocked by everyone and now, where he was someone who had his own Tao and could be considered a grandmaster of his generation. As Wang Lin continued to walk forward, the shadow quickly closed in, and when it was within 100 feet of Wang Lin, it used various spells. This person's spells were related to beasts. These spells turned into various vicious beasts that opened their jaws to devour Wang Lin. Without the domain of an ascendant cultivator, even if they have the power of an ascendant cultivator, they are but an empty shell. Just one blow. Wang Lin pointed with this finger and softly said, "We'll break it." A flash of black light came out of his fingertip, turned into a strand of black gas, and flew out. After Wang Lin reached the ascendant stage, his origin soul and domain had fused, so now he had origin energy. With a raise of his hand, his attack would be a fusion of his domain and celestial spiritual energy. He also had his own Tao, so all of his spells contained a trace of his Tao. The finger of death closed in, carrying Wang Lin's Tao with it. It pierced through the various illusionary beasts and directly pierced through the chest of the man in black. The vicious beasts shattered, and the man in black died. It wasn't that he didn't want to dodge, but he was someone who had forcibly reached the ascendant stage. He didn't have the qualifications to dodge the spell of someone who had truly reached the ascendant stage. "Who are you?" A very dignified voice came from within the castle. Even until now, Wang Lin hadn't stopped at all as he walked toward the White Castle. "You provoked me twice, and now that I came here today, you ask me who I am." Wang Lin's voice was very calm. It was impossible to tell if he was happy or angry. "Your name is Wang." "I don't remember offending anyone named Wang." The short old man's expression was gloomy as he sat inside the castle. He could easily tell that Wang Lin was not simple. This person had truly reached the early stage of ascendant and now had his own Tao. Among the three women before the old man, Sun Yunshan's little sister, Sun Ruonan, softly said, He should be Wang Lin." Wang Lin. The short old man was startled, and his expression immediately became gloomy. He would have never thought that the little cultivator that he wanted to capture and turn into a celestial guardian on a whim would now be at this level of cultivation. If he had knew about this back then, he would have never provoked Wang Lin given his personality. The short old man pondered a bit and slowly said, "Fellow cultivator Wang, earlier it was me being reckless, offending you twice. You have already killed 2 of my celestial guardians, so we are even. Today I won't make it hard for you, so you can leave. After today, our paths will not cross." When his words reached the 3 women before him, the 3 women were surprised. The 3 of them had a very good understanding of this old ancestor. Although this person's cultivation level was high, he was narrow-minded. Now that someone had come knocking on his door, not only did he not attack, he was even letting this Wang Lin go. This was especially true for Sun Ruonan. Although she didn't know much about Wang Lin, she thought that no matter how fierce he was, he couldn't compare to the old ancestor. It has to be said that the ancestor was a celestial. He only needed 1 spell to completely trap 4 peak late-stage soul transformation cultivators. Not to mention the fact that the ancestor still had 8 more celestial guardians. She just didn't believe they would lose if all 8 celestial guardians attacked at once. After hearing the old man's words, Wang Lin continued to walk toward the castle. He shook his head and said, 2 celestial guardians are merely 2 broken jades. How can that cancel out your crime of offending me? The expression of the short old man inside the castle changed. His eyes released a ray of golden light and he gloomily said, "What an arrogant person. You are merely an early-stage ascendant cultivator, do you really think I can't kill you?" The remaining 8 celestial guardians summoned the celestial emperor and killed this man. After he said that, 8 figures suddenly flew out from the castle. There were women and men among the 8 of them. Their figures moved like lightning and they gave off the pressure and aura of ascendant cultivators. Wang Lin's expression remained the same as he coldly looked at the 8 of them. The 8 of them suddenly sat down in the lotus position. The positions they sat in created a formation that contained a sense of heavenly law. Their hands continuously formed different seals. Then an aura filled with celestial spiritual energy exploded forth from their bodies. The aura fused together in a strange manner above them. It turned into a phantom in the sky that gave off bursts of celestial spiritual energy. This phantom gradually became solid and suddenly turned into a middle-aged man. This man was wearing a green robe, had a head of flowing hair, and held a green longsword in his hand. An aura like the heavens might spread out from this phantom. At this moment, all of the surrounding cultivators knelt and respectfully said, "Lower realm cultivators greet Celestial Emperor." The old man's laughter came from within the castle. His tone was filled with arrogance as he shouted, "Wang Lin, this old man won't lie to you. I am originally from the Celestial Realm. After the Celestial Realm shattered, I arrived here due to luck. All of my spells are real celestial spells, they are not things you can resist. It is not too late for you to leave now, but if you truly provoke me, you will without a doubt die." Wang Lin's eyes revealed a mysterious light when he saw the phantom of the middle-aged man holding the green sword. He raised his right hand and the sky darkened. The underworld river descended and circled around Wang Lin, then it charged directly at the phantom of the middle-aged man. At this moment, the celestial spiritual energy within the 8 celestial guardians exploded forth like a raging storm. The celestial spiritual energy entered the phantom through the seal in their hands. Then an unimaginable majesty suddenly spread out from the middle-aged man. The phantom's eyes seemed to gain intelligence as he stared at Wang Lin, then he pointed his green sword at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's pupils suddenly shrank. Although the action of pointing the sword had no attack power, Wang Lin had the urge to retreat. He felt as if his origin soul would collapse if he didn't retreat. This kind of feeling was extremely strong, but it wasn't something Wang Lin hadn't encountered before. The divine retribution back then also had this power. Wang Lin cultivated against the heavens and had a very firm Tao heart. He forced himself to not retreat, and not only that, he even took a step forward. However, he had only taken a half a step when the 8 celestial guardians coughed out blood and their eyes dimmed. The blood they coughed out contained all of the celestial and life energy in their bodies. These 8 mouthfuls of blood were absorbed by the middle-aged man. Suddenly, his gaze toward Wang Lin became even more intelligent. At the moment Wang Lin's step was about to land, he opened his mouth and spoke a silent word. This word was silent, but Wang Lin's ears were filled with an unimaginable rumble. Wang Lin took a deep breath and closed his eyes. His foot suddenly landed. At the moment his step landed, the 8 celestial guardians' bodies trembled and their eyes went completely dark. At the same time, the underworld river swept by. The phantom of the middle-aged man trembled before shattering. That terrifying feeling completely disappeared. What a powerful illusionary attack! Wang Lin's eyes became cold and he let out a cold snort. He began moving forward once more and fused with the underworld river. The underworld river moved like a yellow dragon and directly passed by the 8 celestial guardians sitting on the ground. At the moment he passed by, the bodies of the 8 celestial guardians collapsed. They were trapped inside the underworld river and could never escape. 8 broken jades flew out and were caught by Wang Lin, then he threw them into his bag of holding. An angry roar came out from the castle and a strand of very pure celestial spiritual energy exploded forth. The strand continued to condense as it shot out toward Wang Lin. The underworld river around Wang Lin suddenly rose up and formed a pillar that could support the heavens. Wang Lin was inside the underworld river when the strand of celestial spiritual energy entered the river and disappeared within. Wang Lin was inside the underworld river as he softly said, "Activate." The underworld river suddenly scattered and turned into a vortex. It swept the area, causing the White Castle to suddenly collapse. The sounds of earth rumbling echoed across the land. The short old man charged out and floated in the air. The 3 women that were cultivating with him also flew out and coldly watched from the sidelines. The short old man looked extremely shifty. He didn't look like a cultivator at all and instead looked like a thief. He was filled with anger as he shouted at Wang Lin, "Wang Lin, I have endured many times because I didn't want to become your enemy, but you are really ungrateful. Considering it is difficult for lower realm cultivators to reach your cultivation level, I'll leave you a path of survival. Leave now, but if you continue to enrage me, then don't blame me for ruthlessly killing you." Wang Lin's eyes became cold, but he didn't speak. Instead, he pointed his finger forward and a finger of death charged at the old man. The old man's expression changed and a trance of solemnity flashed across his eyes. He took a deep breath and then suddenly spat out thick celestial spiritual energy. It formed a celestial fog that immediately surrounded the finger of death. There were sizzling sounds coming from within, and then they actually cancelled each other out. Wang Lin, you forced me. The short old man's expression was gloomy as he touched his bag of holding and took out a fist-sized blue jade. The old man formed a seal and shouted, "Celestial seed." The blue jade immediately shook and began to move in a strange manner. It then turned into countless blue threads and let out a sharp hum as the threads spread out like dancing snakes. The moment the blue threads appeared, the surrounding cultivators' expressions became ugly. Their eyes were filled with fear. Looking at the countless blue threads, Wang Lin's eyes were filled with light, and he slowly said, "Celestial beast feed." Although the surrounding cultivators had no idea what Wang Lin was talking about, the short old man's expression changed once more. He exclaimed, "You know." Wang Lin had a feeling that he had seen it before when he saw the blue threads inside Sun Yunshan. Thinking about it carefully, this was clearly the celestial beast feed he encountered in the celestial realm when he teamed up with a Da Lu Sword sect disciple. He didn't explain this to Sun Yunshan. The old man couldn't be bothered with why Wang Lin recognized this. After he obtained the celestial beast feed, he still wasn't able to completely control it. Now that he had taken them all out, it was clearly an act of desperation. Normally, with his mid-stage ascendant cultivation, he shouldn't be like this. However, he had his own difficulties that he couldn't speak of, so he acted like this. "Devour him!" As the short old man shouted, his hand formed a seal and pointed at the countless blue strands. Hundreds and thousands of blue threads rushed toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin wasn't unfamiliar with this scene. Back then he faced an army of celestial beast feeds hundreds and thousands of times larger. Right now there were merely 1,000, so he wasn't nervous at all. He slapped his bag of holding and a normal soul flag appeared in his hand. Before he came here, he already had his doubts, so he was prepared. He shook the flag and the Chileen he obtained in the soul refining sect appeared. Although this beast was only the soul of a Chileen, it still had some inheritance. Now that it appeared, it let out a roar. Its body trembled and its large head suddenly locked onto the incoming celestial beast feed. The Chileen's eyes suddenly released a burst of golden light. Its gaze was like a demon who had been starving for tens of thousands of years and had finally seen food. Celestial Chileen. After the short old man saw Wang Lin release a Chileen, he suddenly realized that something was wrong. Then he saw the Chileen's gaze and his heart trembled. All of the celestial beast feeds trembled when the Chileen appeared. It was as if they had just met their natural enemy. They all let out sharp shrills and without any hesitation they turned around to escape. Not only the ones in the sky, but even the cultivators on the ground began to tremble as if they were enduring a lot of pain. Green lines appeared on the heads of the cultivators and condensed into dots on each of their heads. Seeing that those celestial beast feeds were about to escape, the Chileen let out invisible gas from its nose. This gas spread out like a roar, and it contained a mysterious force within it. All of the surrounding celestial beast feeds trembled and didn't dare to escape anymore. The Chileen arrived next to the celestial beast feeds and inhaled all of them. The celestial beast feeds were converted into an energy that was very nutritious for celestial beasts. This scene caused the short old man to become dumbfounded. The Chileen licked its lips and stared at the green dots on the cultivators' heads. Clearly it hadn't eaten its fill. The short old man's expression became ugly and then he quickly took out another item from his bag of holding. What he took out was a brush. The body of the brush was crystal clear, but the tip was snow white as if it had never touched ink before. The moment he took it out, it released a sense of majesty. Even the Chileen couldn't help but reveal a sense of shock under this sense of majesty. After he took it out, he gave Wang Lin a ferocious stare and shouted, "Little brat Wang Lin, since you recognize the celestial beast feed, do you recognize this?" Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. He didn't speak but slapped his bag of holding, and the god-slaying war chariot appeared. After its true inheritance had been activated, the weakness of its slow activation had disappeared. The short old man shouted, "Even you don't know what this is. Let me tell you, this is something I carried around with me back in the celestial realm. I used it to enlighten lower realm cultivators. This old man is really considering the fact that it's very difficult for you to cultivate this far, so scram now. If you don't scram, then I'll really attack. Wang Lin looked at the old man and slowly said, "You don't need to keep telling me to leave. I have already noticed that although you are at the mid-stage of Ascendant, you are just like those celestial guardians. None of you have any origin energy inside your bodies." The short old man's greatest secret was revealed by Wang Lin. Feeling furious from embarrassment, he waved the brush in his hand. Then he coughed out a mouthful of blood and drew a symbol with the brush. The moment the symbol appeared, a powerful force began to spread from the symbol. Wang Lin revealed a hint of shock for the first time, but soon that shock turned into excitement. He stared at the symbol and then his gaze turned to the brush. The excitement in his eyes turned into unimaginable joy. Wang Lin wasn't unfamiliar with this symbol. It was exactly the same as the one he encountered on the path outside of the cave. He had studied this symbol many times and had also drawn it many times, but they displayed no power. He could never reproduce the amazing power of the four-stroke symbol, and he always regretted it in his heart. However, at this moment, he saw the symbol again from this short old man. Although this symbol was only one stroke, it was a real symbol and it was very powerful. Wang Lin's gaze caused the short old man's heart to tremble. He wasn't unfamiliar with this gaze. When the Chilean saw those celestial beast feeds, it had the same gaze. Just at this moment, Wang Lin released the most intense battle intent since entering the demon spirit land. He pointed at the god-slaying war chariot and shouted, "Thunder Beast!" Lightning and thunder suddenly appeared in the sky and landed directly on the chariot. At the same time, the silver-horned thunder beast appeared under the strikes of lightning. The moment it appeared, it let out a roar. Its roar caused changes in the clouds and caused the sky to rumble. The entire sky was immediately covered in lightning. At this moment, the Chilean also began to roar. Although its roar wasn't as powerful as the thunder beasts, it wasn't weak either. This roar caused all of the green dots to be shaken out of the surrounding cultivators' bodies, and they were devoured by the Chilean. Right after that happened, the symbol drawn by the brush flew out toward Wang Lin. But just at this moment, the thunder beast let out a roar and stepped forth. Strands of lightning descended from the sky, creating an incredible scene of lightning raining down. A series of lightning bolts descended from the sky and landed on the symbol. Although this symbol's power was great, the short old man seemed to only know this one stroke, so he couldn't display its true power. He could only watch as the symbol was weakened by the lightning strikes until it collapsed. After being stunned for a moment, the short old man's body trembled. He was afraid, and without any hesitation, he turned around to escape. Several hundred years after he had that lucky encounter, he managed to take control of a large number of cultivators. However, because he was cautious, or to be more accurate, he was very timid, he never dared to provoke ascendant cultivators or demon general level people. His timidness was innate. He had reached the late stage of soul transformation a long time ago, but he didn't have the slightest bit of courage to try to reach the ascendant stage. He was afraid of death. However, he gradually forgot about this caution after he gathered 10 celestial guardians. He began to personally act to catch more cultivators to fuse with the broken jades. He hoped to cultivate more experts at the level of the celestial guardians. What is this damn Wang Lin's background? How can he be this powerful? Damn it, if I can escape this time, I'll definitely smash the head of the cultivator from ancient demon city who told me news of Wang Lin. As the short old man escaped, he cursed in his heart. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with passion. Even if he had to use all of the celestial spiritual energy in his body, he wouldn't let this short old man escape. His eyes were completely red right now. However, this wasn't red from slaughter but red from the treasure in the old man's hand. In Wang Lin's eyes, the old man was a moving treasure chest. Wang Lin was very puzzled. If this old man had this many treasures, how come no one had come to steal them from him throughout all these years? He didn't know that this old man had always been timid and careful. It was only in these past few decades that he had gotten more bold. Before, when the old man captured cultivators, he only caught cultivators from small sects. However, recently he had become bold and began to capture disciples of large sects. Capturing the Heavenly Fate sect's Blue Division disciple was one of his bold performances. Although this short old man was at the mid-stage of Ascendant, he obtained it through special methods. As a result, if he encountered a weak early-stage Ascendant cultivator, he could still hold his own. However, if he met someone like Wang Lin, who could match real mid-stage Ascendant cultivators, his power was really insignificant. In addition, although he had powerful treasures, he could barely use most of them. He could only use them on a superficial level. To be able to display just 1% of their power was his limit. As the short old man quickly escaped, he felt like he had gone back to before he had that lucky encounter and was still a late-stage soul transformation cultivator being chased by powerful cultivators. His heart was furious and he cursed Wang Lin. However, a ray of black light quickly closed in from behind him. The old man quickly drew a symbol with the brush to block the spell. Then he mercilessly took a step with his right foot and his body released a burst of fire. When the fire disappeared, he also disappeared. Wang Lin's eyes became even more red. Although the old man's skill was quite poor, he sure had mastered the art of escaping. In half an hour of time, this person had already used 10 spells that even caused Wang Lin to be shocked. This was the 11th escape spell that was completely different from the last 10. Wang Lin sneered and teleported away. He spread out his divine sense and immediately found the short old man 15,000 kilometers away. The fire disappeared from the old man's body and then he quickly flew away. He suddenly revealed a bitter expression as Wang Lin's figure appeared from the void before him and charged at him. The old man revealed a look of hesitation. He clenched his teeth and then threw the brush in his hand away. The brush floated in the air and ripples appeared around it. It seemed like it was about to penetrate through the void and disappear. After the old man threw the brush, he quickly formed a seal. A metal aura appeared and quickly surrounded his whole body. Then he immediately rushed away from Wang Lin, and his speed had unexpectedly increased 100-fold. Little brat Wang Lin, that celestial brush truly belonged to a celestial. If that disappears into the void, it will be very difficult for you to find it again. The old man's voice slowly came from the distance. Wang Lin's expression remained neutral and his right hand touched his bag of holding. The celestial sword and the half-moon blade flew out. Shuligwa's figure appeared, and without Wang Lin giving him any orders, he already knew what Wang Lin wanted. He let out a roar as he looked at the black blade and shouted, "Little black, speed! Speed! I want to catch that brush!" The black blade flashed and disappeared. It carried Shuligwa directly into the void. Wang Lin took a step and activated the greater teleportation spell to chase after the short old man. As the old man escaped, he noticed Wang Lin chasing after him and immediately began to cry. He thought, what does he want? I already threw away my celestial brush, why doesn't he let me go? He detected that Wang Lin was quickly closing in with his divine sense. He clenched his teeth and took out a net that was glowing green. The old man mumbled to himself, compared to the divine soul brush, my control of this celestial capture net is even weaker, so I have never used it against an enemy. I beg you, celestial capture net, this time you must recognize the right enemy. It can be considered fate that I found you, right? This time you must not trap me. He really wasn't willing to use this celestial capture net unless it was his last resort. To him, this net was simply too strange. After he obtained it, he used it while no one was around to see what power it had. He didn't expect the net to trap him instead, and it lasted for 3 days. After that, he hesitated for a long time, but he wasn't willing to give up, so he tried again. This resulted in him trapping himself for another 3 days. It was only at the 3rd attempt that he managed to trap the piece of wood he was using for this experiment. This video will end here.